Okay, let's just get right into it. You wake up, you put in the grind every single day, but you kind of feel trapped, right? Like you're working tirelessly, but your hard work just keeps smacking into these invisible walls. And then you look around and see these massive digital platforms effortlessly raking in billions of dollars. It's wild. You can't help but wonder, what do they know that I don't? Well, today, in this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly why that's happening and how the actual physics of business have completely shifted right under our feet.
So, why exactly are those traditional business frameworks failing you today? Look, if you went to an elite business school or you've read all the classic strategy books, you were taught a very specific rulebook. Build high walls around limited physical assets. But here's the thing, those strategies are completely breaking down. Why? Well, they were built for a world of scarcity. They literally cannot compute a world with zero inputs. Physical distribution has basically lost its strategic value overnight. And those old competitive moats, they're drying up way faster than anyone saw coming.
Section 1. The old rules are dead.
Okay, so the old physics of business were totally defined by physical scarcity. The ultimate goal back then was to control distribution. You'd build these massive supply moats and act as the gatekeeper. If you controlled the supply, you won the game, plain and simple. But then we enter the new digital physics. We are now living in a landscape of infinite scale. When your marginal and transaction costs plunge to absolute zero, leverage completely shifts. It moves entirely away from the people producing the goods and goes straight into the hands of those who aggregate the demand.
And that brings us to this absolutely crucial concept coined by Ben Thompson called aggregation theory. Honestly, think of this as your ultimate decoder ring for making sense of the internet age. It perfectly explains how the internet is flipping companies upside down in literally every single industry, not just tech. See, when the inputs of distribution and transaction costs drop to zero, those old moats just vanish. Poof, gone. The power in the market transfers from the folks making things straight to the people who can aggregate the consumers who want things.
Which leads us to part 2, the shift to demand. You know, the internet originally promised to democratize access, to let you reach millions without dealing with those physical gatekeepers. But to actually take advantage of that, your whole strategy has to pivot. The absolute ultimate leverage for modern builders is unlocked only when you shift your focus entirely from supply over to demand. Actually, scratch that. Let me rephrase. You absolutely do not need more inventory. What you need is more attention.
Just look at the reality of our current economy. There is this absolutely massive slice of the pie being captured by the aggregators, leaving this incredibly tiny sliver for the actual creators and suppliers. Because these aggregators own that direct relationship with the customer, they just scoop up almost all the value. And the smaller creators, they're left trapped in this frustrating cycle, basically forced to pay rent to these platforms just to get access to their very own audience. It's a completely profound structural shift in global commerce.
Part 3. The FANG Playbook.
Okay, so those tech titans, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, they are actually way more similar than you might think. Take Netflix, for example. They didn't disrupt the movie industry by going out and buying up a bunch of movie theaters, right? No, they aggregated millions of subscribers, and by owning that massive demand, they basically forced traditional Hollywood studios to play by their rules. Google does the same thing. They aggregate searchers, which makes the actual suppliers of the web pages pretty much invisible. Facebook aggregates users, completely commoditizing content creators. It's the exact same aggregation theory playbook. Prove that owning the customer relationship beats owning physical supply every single time.
And the secret engine powering that entire playbook? It's just one number: zero. This right here is the first core principle of this new era: zero distribution and marginal costs. Back in the analog days, if you wanted to scale, you had to build new physical factories, hire massive shipping crews, the whole shebang. Today, replicating and delivering a digital product costs absolutely zero resources. I mean, it literally travels across the globe instantly. So every new transaction brings pure profit, which unlocks this exponential growth curve that was completely impossible in the past.
And because those costs are zero, we hit our second principle, the new demand moat. Since those old supply-side moats are completely gone, those traditional executives out there wasting time trying to secure exclusive supply contracts, they are entirely missing the point. The only moat that actually matters today is winning the customer first. By delivering a totally seamless, superior digital interface that captures customer attention, the aggregator makes the actual original manufacturer of the goods completely invisible.
So let's move to Part 4, the rise of super-aggregators.
How exactly do they pull this off? Well, super-aggregators like Google and Facebook go a step further. They eliminate all internal transaction costs across their entire business. They connect suppliers and users effortlessly. They handle literally millions of data exchanges without needing any human labor. And the craziest part, they do not pay for their core content. Instead, the users and the suppliers are generating all the value themselves. Because of this totally frictionless environment, they just sweep up an enormous share of the global digital advertising market.
Now, there is a really fascinating, completely apolitical reality to operating at this kind of massive scale. When you have a platform facing absolutely zero transaction costs across all parts of its business, massive frictionless content distribution isn't just likely, it's the inevitable outcome. So, when we see highly controversial events in the news, like the presence of Russian election ads on social media platforms, we aren't just looking at a political issue. Objectively speaking, we are looking at the natural structural endpoint of a super-aggregator that has successfully eliminated all friction from its system.
Part 5. The Monopoly Endgame.
Think about how we got here. Decades ago, the internet started disrupting these traditional industries. Then, years ago, we saw the rise of aggregation theory as clever companies capitalized on those zero marginal costs. But today we exist in a winner-take-all monopoly reality, simply because digital aggregation naturally leads to a single dominant player in each vertical. There's honestly just no room for second place. And looking to the future? Well, this immense concentration of power inevitably attracts some heavy regulatory antitrust pushback.
And we're already seeing this exact future arrive today. The European Commission's antitrust case against Google is a perfect, objective example of this dynamic playing out in real time. Governments are starting to push back against monopolies, which, as we've seen, are just the natural endpoints of these digital economies. This case is likely just the very first of many inevitable legal storms aimed at breaking up these massive digital empires. Understanding this regulatory trajectory, it is absolutely crucial for the long-term survival of any business today.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 6, Mastering Your Digital Future. Okay, here is your actionable survival guide. Step 1. You absolutely must stop relying on physical supply moats. They simply do not exist anymore. Step 2. Center your entire strategy around delivering an unparalleled user experience, period. Step 3. Focus relentlessly, and I mean relentlessly, on building a direct, highly loyal digital audience. And finally, Step 4. Become the central hub for your specific niche. By doing this, you can actually turn these overwhelming macroeconomic forces from massive threats into your own personal tailwinds.
I really want you to burn this idea into your memory. When you manage to become the trusted aggregator of choice for your customers, you gain the power to dictate the terms to the entire supply chain sitting behind you. You stop renting access to your audience, and you finally start owning that relationship. The future belongs entirely to those who control the digital experience.
Which leaves us with this final, really critical thought for you to audit your own career or business today. Take a close look at where you are spending your time and your capital right now. Are you exhausting yourself trying to build an outdated moat of physical supply? Or are you actively aggregating demand so you can master your digital future? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.